April 26, 1986 was the day when one of history's most disastrous nuclear accidents took place at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Pripyat, Ukraine. Later followed a series of events that would shape the future of nuclear power, global policy, and the fate of countless individuals. That is the story of the Chernobyl disaster. The scale of the tragedy became known to authorities only during the first few days after the disaster. At the beginning, evacuations did not take place, and the government merely tried to keep the accident from the public knowledge. However, when the radioactive cloud began to spread, authorities knew that the disaster had become very gigantic, and it was very obvious that it would be impossible to conceal the incident. The nearby town of Pripyat, where the workers of the plant resided, was evacuated 36 hours after the blast. Over 49,000 residents were required to evacuate, and the evacuation zone was soon expanded to 30 kilometers in radius, affecting over 100,000 people in total. The immediate health impact was devastating. 2 plant workers died on the night of the explosion, and 28 emergency responders, including firefighters, succumbed to acute radiation sickness shortly afterwards. Exposure to radiation produced dramatic long-term health consequences. Thousands of thyroid cancer cases, particularly in children who lived in the contaminated regions, were attributed directly to the radioactive iodine that was released. The World Health Organization estimates thousands of additional cancers and untimely deaths may result from the disaster in subsequent years. Although the complete extent of the human cost may never be accurately determined, research continues to demonstrate a dramatic increase in health complications, most prominently cancer, birth defects, and mental distress among residents who lived in and around the poisoned areas. The disaster's political fallout was profound. It exposed the Soviet government's lack of transparency as they initially tried to cover up the incident. It was a key moment in the gradual unraveling of the Soviet Union. The Chernobyl disaster amplified public discontent, particularly with the government's handling of the crisis. It also played a significant role in the growing wave of reforms under Mikhail Gorbachev's glasnost and perestroika. Internationally, the disaster raised new concerns about nuclear safety and prompted many nations to reassess their nuclear programs. The cleanup effort was another colossal undertaking. Known as liquidators, over 600,000 workers were tasked with containing the damage and cleaning up the site. Many of these workers were exposed to dangerous radiation, and many suffered from health complications later in life. The Chernobyl facility itself continues to pose a threat today. In 2016, a giant steel dome, the new safe confinement, was built to encapsulate the devastated reactor and hold the radiation for at least 100 years. Chernobyl's shadow hangs over the record of nuclear power. It brought about far-reaching reforms in nuclear safety rules and greater global collaboration on disaster planning. Numerous nations abandoned nuclear power while others spent money on more secure reactor designs and enhanced emergency procedures. Chernobyl also sparked a global debate about the future of nuclear power. While some nations turn to alternative sources like wind and solar energy, others continue to rely on nuclear power, citing its low carbon emissions and energy efficiency. Today, Chernobyl stands as a stark reminder of the dangers of nuclear technology, yet it is also a testament to human resilience. The exclusion zone is a place of reflection and remembrance. For the few who live nearby or work in the zone, it's a stark reminder of the intersection of human error and environmental catastrophe. Nearly 40 years since the Chernobyl disaster, its legacy is still being felt across the world. As we grapple with the complexities of nuclear energy, the Chernobyl disaster remains an urgent reminder. In our world, there can be no complacency. Humanity should never forget the Chernobyl disaster and should instead strive to make sure that such a huge disaster never happens again.